Hello, my fellow Inquisitorial agents. My name is Dagan, and welcome back to the Grimdark Future, the 41st Millennium. And today, the Traitor Curse Part 2 Anniversary Update is now live. So, Part 2 to the anniversary is now live. We've got a bunch of new stuff to cover. I've got the patch notes right in front of me. I'm going to go ahead and read through the biggest chunk of it so you guys can know about the new stuff that they've added, as well as some of the changes that they've done to some of the weapons. A lot of buffs, guys. A lot of buffs to weapons. We got a buff to the veteran talent tree, which is great. And we got some new content as well. So let's go ahead and get right into it. First part, we've got new mission Warren 619 Hab Zone HL7004. The rock goes deeper than we feared, and so must we. Head into the back alleys of the carnival in a new mission. Wormwood agents report increased trader activity and a worrying rise in stim use. Find out what you can and destroy the Mobian stim production facilities. Awesome. So we got a new mission. I love this art right here. It looks great. And then going down, the Karnak twins ambushing strike teams. The Karnak twins have slipped their leash and have been sighted across Tertium. During missions, players can encounter one of the twins, either Rinda or Rodin. Be on your guard and steel yourself for the fight to come. This combat encounter will be time limited. So they will appear in your missions and they will attack you, and it will be a time limited fight throughout the mission. So really cool thing right there. We've got some new weapon marks. We've got foldable shovels for both the veteran and the Ogren, and these come with a new weapon special that folds the blade, turning the shovel into a makeshift pickaxe for one powerful strike down attack, and then resets the weapon back to its unfolded state after a successful hit. The new veteran sapper shovels use the pointy end that is exposed when folded to make a precise strike that gets stuck in the enemy when hit, and also gives extra damage when the weapon is yanked out. The Ogren's latrine shovels goes for more simple, powerful hammer blow that crushes most opponents. These are two variations, each both the sapper and the latrine shovel, giving players different movesets, catering to different preferences and playstyles, but focusing mostly on crowd control and horizontal sweeps to complement the weapon special strike down attacks that favor singles targets. Awesome. Okay, we got some new chain weapons as well. We got a new chain axe, heavy eviscerator, and another assault chain sword. For this patch, we have decided to make some changes in addition to make chain weapons play nicer. We hope that this will make all chain weapons more appealing, appreciated on all difficulties. One big problem with the chain weapons was the risk-reward of the sawing attacks. The rewards rarely outweighed the risk and frustration of getting stuck and unable to defend yourself. We added so that you can dodge cancel out of these attacks at the cost of stamina and missing out on the big damage payoff at the end. This will make the iconic sawing less risky and make the weapon more flexible and adaptable in combat. That's a really great change. The assault chain axe has been a problematic weapon, leaving much to be desired for both when it comes to damage output and usability. With this patch, we made some changes to it, along with making the sawing attacks cancelable. We made the light chain and activated heavy attack more vertical to make target acquisition easier and avoid hitting enemies at the edges of the screen. It also has a bit more bite on all of its attacks. That's a great change. I know there's a bunch of chain axe veterans out there, so this is a good change for you guys. We also introduced new variations of all chain weapons that mix things up with horde handling, light, strong elite shredding, strike down heavies, and fast stab attacks to stagger enemies. Very good. Okay. Let's continue on. More new marks. We've got a new stub revolver, a lighter stub revolver with a quick loader that reloads all bullets at the same time, compared to the last stub revolver that this one has shorter range. It is a bit less accurate and lower damage, but excels in close range with a high fire rate, and a new brace stance that allows for fanning the hammer. That is so cool. So you can fan the hammer for even quicker fire rate. We've got a new heavy las pistol, and it does a higher damage per shot and a slightly longer range, but for a slower fire rate. And then we do have another combat blade, so a knife that brings more horde controlling capabilities with sweeping vanguard heavies, and a different light chain than the current combat blade that has regained some of its lost power and should be able to stagger enemies again on both this one and actually the old Mark knife as well. All right, players' stims. Stims are designed to give a temporary boost that empowers the player for a short while. Stims are spawned in a mission at random, similar to how ammo and medical crates are spawned. Players can pick them up, and they occupy a new dedicated consumable slot for small items. To select this new slot, press 4 on the keyboard or D on the D-pad, up D on the D-pad, and on the controller by default. On some controller layouts, you can swap between the small item slot and the large slot by pressing the same button multiple times. As a consequence of this new binding, wielding the Auspex has been moved to 5 on keyboards. Check your preferred controller or keyboard layout in the game to see exact binding. Okay. Actions. Primary action, you can use it on yourself. You can use the stim on yourself. Secondary action is you can hold down and aim it to use it on another player. When aimed, an outline appears around a player if they are in range for being injected. Players can then choose to inject the outline player by pressing the primary action button. Special action is also gift item, all consumable items. So every single one, so even the medical crate, the ammo crate, we've added the ability for players to be able to give equipped consumables to other players. For a player to receive an item, they need to have the corresponding item slot empty. All consumables, excluding the grimoires, have gained this action. So you can special action hold and gift it to another player. An outline appears if the player is in range, and they can choose to give the consumable to the other player. That's a very nice. No more having to waste items, or if you need to give it to another player mid-action, you can do that as well. So as far as stim types go, we've got multiple different ones. We're looking at 4 different stims within the game now. We have the med stim, restores one's health segment or 25% of max health, whichever is larger, and corruption damage included. Med stims can't be used on a target or other players if the target has no health or corruption damage to restore. Okay? Combat stim lasts 15 seconds, increases in power 25%, so power is damage plus stagger strength. Also rending plus 25%, that's awesome, so armor penetration. Reduction of peril generation, so a negative 33% peril generation for the Psyker, that's really great. Celerity stim lasts 15 seconds, increases reload speed by 15%, reduction in stamina cost by 25% for pushing, blocking, and 50% for sprinting. That's awesome. Increases attack speed by 20% and increases the following by 25%. Charge time for plasma guns, Psyker's brain burst, and Psyker stabs. That's really good. The speed of which the Psyker's smite propagates between enemies, speed at which Psyker can throw shards using a sail, speed at which Psyker quells their peril. So these stims are providing really nice buffs as well. To all the classes. Concentration stim lasts 15 seconds, increases your combat ability cooldown regeneration speed by 300%, which is 4 times as fast as usual. That's fantastic. All right, now let's look at some bug fixes and tweaks. We've got the veteran talent tree. We moved talent nodes in the lower part of the tree to reduce the amount of points needed to reach the keystones, which in turn should open up the tree up to more opportunities and making a build. This will require talent trees for the veteran to be reset. Okay, that's fair. So they show a picture here, which is really nice. So they did shorten the bottom trees, the very bottom trees, so you can reach your keystone faster. I did test this out on my veteran build. I did gain, I believe I gained 2 extra skill points, so that is pretty nice. They probably could have done a little more, but I'm very happy with this, and I will take it. Now the section below for combat abilities, modified ease of access of keystones. Cool, that's for the veteran tree. Now let's look at some other fixes. Psyker fixed an issue where Psyker Blitz abilities Assail and Smite would not get re-wielded after using an interaction or being catapulted by an enemy, etc. Fix an issue where switching from charged brain burst to locked brain burst when affected by kinetic resonance will cause the charge time to reset. It's a good change. Fixed issue where the quickening and prescience were both active at the same time. Fixed so that Psyker Blitz ability Smite always attacks the center mass hit zone. so the torso, and now only the gibbing is randomized instead. All right, that's a good change. Veteran fixed an issue where veteran talent onslaught could be triggered by damage over time effects like burning or bleeding. Fixed an issue where the veteran infiltrate combat ability was interrupting and preventing sprint on use. Fixed an issue where born leader didn't replenish toughness of allies when the player was at max toughness. And fixed an issue where talents weren't reset when running a preset with an incorrect talent version. Gotcha. All right, so we've got some general weapons tweaks. So the Orestes Mark IV Assault Chain Axe, heavy attacks 10% faster and decreased chain times into and from them. Heavy attacks increased cleave, increased armor damage modifiers, increased damage on initial hit of weapon special activated attacks, light from 50 to 70 and heavy from 10 to 95. They updated the light chain. The heavy 3 attack, reachable from light 3, is now a sweep right attack instead, and its speed was tweaked to match other heavies. When the weapon special is active, heavy 1 will be a vertical attack. The Cadia Mark IV Assault Chainsword added more impact on the final damage tick on light sawing, so enemies will get staggered after getting sawed. That's a good change. Increased damage on initial hit of weapon special activated attacks from light 10 to 40. Stab 10 to 35. Very good. All right. The Heavy Eviscerator Chainsword increased damage on initial hit of weapon special activated attacks, light from 0.01 to 85, Heavy Vanguard from 0.01 to 135 or 137.5, and Heavy Strike Down from 0.01 to 160. So really nice buffs there. Munitorum Sapper Shovels, downward strikes now prioritize enemies' heads above body. Chaining the weapon special attack into itself is now 0.45 seconds faster. Light attack damage increased. Power from 70 to 140 to 80 to 160. The armor damage modifiers versus maniacs increased 10% on the first target. And heavy attack damage increased power from 100 to 200 to 110 to 225. It's good changes. Ogren heavy attack relentless damage profiles, armor damage modifier versus unarmored and infested increased from 125% to 133% on the first target. And that is for the brute brainer latrine shovels on the Ogren. Now looking at the Mark IV Thunderhammer, the Ironhelm Mark IV Thunderhammer, push now combos into Heavy 3 to provide a faster way into a strike down heavy attack. Also fixed the bug where Heavy 3 didn't use the correct damage profile and did not deal more damage than the activated sweep attacks in Heavy 1 and 2. Buffed the base damage for this heavy activated strike down power from 400 to 800 to 450 to 900. 12.5% more than H1 and H2, but still less than the Crucius Mark II Thunderhammer. Push follow-up now combos into Heavy 2 instead. For the Mark III Combat Blade, increased base power of weapon special jab attack from 150 to 500, adjusted to attack damage and impact distribution accordingly. Overall, this will increase both damage and impact of the attack compared to before. Ogren Cleavers aligned all Ogren Cleavers to make the chain time into Heavy 2 at 0.5. Karnak 4 was significantly faster. This makes the other two cleavers faster and evens them out since the attack is similar. Gotcha. All right, we got the Graya Mark IV Braced Autogun, increased the base damage by about 20% from 60 to 120 to 72 to 145. That's a good change. And then we got the Akatran MG Mark II Heavy Las Pistol. Beams now cause much less suppression when shooting near or when killing enemies, and moved attack speed back to how it was before patch 13 class overhaul. The dev note here is that the Mark II Heavy Las Pistol was already strong without the added rate of fire increase, but it also put it in place where you would have to click on reasonably fast or almost required a macro to utilize the attack speed, moving it more towards an automatic weapon that should be held to shoot. And that isn't the Heavy Las Pistol. So to keep it in more reasonable line with the new Mark X Heavy Las Pistol, it's now back to its previous rate of fire. All right. So the Zerona Mark 11 Quick Draw Mark II quick draw stub revolver. So the traditional stub revolver, the heavy hitting one, the carapace armor damage modifier from 60% is now down to 40%. We felt that the quick draw stub revolver was a bit overperforming. It had high armor penetration, especially combined with the hand cannon blessing, and was outshining, for example, the bolter in this regard. This change brings the revolver's default armor penetration against carapace armor to be the same as the bolter and brings it closer to the new Agrippina Mark 14 revolver. Okay, so they did nerf the stub revolver, and I think we all saw that coming. It just, with hand cannon, it was just far too strong, and even in conjunction with surgical. All right, so Surge Force Staff on the Psyker, secondary charge chain lightning attack now always hits the center mass hit zone, so the torso, and now only gibbing is randomized instead, and critical hits will give maximum gibbing. The Hellbore Lasguns, you can now hold the primary action button to continuously shoot with the Hellbore Lasguns while in ADS. That's a good change. And then the Mark II Plasma Gun fixed an issue with the primary attack overcharging differently with different charge rate stat values. Dev note, the charge rate stat should not have an effect on the damage output. It should only affect the duration and speed of the action. We've decided to change the cap of the charge level from 0.5 to 0.525 to avoid decreasing the damage output, since it could previously range between 0.5 to 0.525 depending on the amount of overcharge. Primary attack should now always charge up to, but not overshoot, 0.525 charge level. Alright, the standard issue Munitorum Sapper Shovel fixed an issue with defensive stat that was affecting the dodge distance. The dev note, defensive stat should not affect the dodge distance, only the mobility stat should. That's fair. The Vrax Headhunter Mark III fixed an issue where the bursts would break and not shoot enough bullets if you had too high of an attack speed buff. Okay, that's a good change. Awesome. And then there are a bunch of weapons tweaks, and it shows all the numbers for these. There's so many. I'm not going to go ahead and read all of that, but I do want to say for my stub revolver users that were running, the stub revolver veteran or maybe the cowboy build on the Psyker, the hand cannon blessing has been nerfed quite significantly. So from tier 1 rending, the rending is from 50% to 30% now. Tier 2 is 60% now to 40%. The tier 3 is from 70 to 50 now, and the tier 4 is 80 to 60% now. And so the dev note here is, due to the recent change about rending, we noticed that some blessings overperformed. Hand cannon is one of them, and we decided to tune it down a little. Moreover, the new Agrippina Mark 14 quick draw stub revolver, when combined with hand cannon, was getting rid of the carapace armored enemies too efficiently while using its brace fanning technique. So they had to nerf it for even the new hand cannon, for the new stub revolver. All right. And the black backstab blessing was also changed, and it's now properly reflecting the proper values. So tier 1 from 90% to 70% rending on backstab. Tier 2 is 100% to 80% rending on backstab. And tier 3 is 110 to 90%. And tier 4 is 120 to 100%. Dev note, rending bonuses is capped at 100%. So tier 2, 3, and 4 were all the same strength. We've lowered tier 1 to 3 for this to make sense again. This won't have any impact on damage output for tier 4. So if you're already using a tier 4 ruthless backstab blessing, there's no change. But if you're using tier 3 down to tier 1, there is a change for you, okay? Now some combat changes fixed an issue where projectiles that are sticking to an enemy sometimes did not give full damage when exploding. So that was probably even affecting the crack grenades. Fixed so that barrels and explosive spheres should not allow for sticky melee attacks from chain or force weapons. This should prevent players from getting stuck at a barrel that will explode in their face when they accidentally hit a barrel with an activated attack. Fixed so that sticky attacks on destructible objectives does not cause vertical camera movement. Fixed an issue where some destructible signs would stop melee attacks in the air. Fixed bug that allowed for greater movement than intended when sawing someone with chain weapons. Fixed broken sawing stat for chain weapons. The sawing stat did not always affect damage output for the sawing correctly. Fixed a bug where chain swords and eviscerators secondary second heavy attacks could be cancelled by holding the sprint button. Fixed issue where players weren't immune to damage for the first few seconds after spawning in an ongoing mission. That's a good change. If you join a mission in progress, you're not going to take damage. They fixed the issue. Fix an issue with limb splitter affecting melee attacks on ranged weapons if you had a melee weapon with the blessing equipped. Fix an issue where executioner blessing would reset when non-intended. Fix an issue where tier 4 weapon blessing Skull Crusher and Thunder Strike were showing 5% extra damage and stagger instead of the expected 10%. Alright. Enemies. Fix an issue where a player could be healed by a medical crate after being eaten by a beast of Nurgle. Increase the health modifier for monstrous specialists and maelstrom missions from 25% to 40%. Change the number of demon host kills before disappearing from 2 to 1 on difficulty uprising, sedition, and malice. Okay, so if there is a demon host in tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3, so uprising, sedition, and malice, and it kills a player, it's only going to kill the one player instead of 2 players. Demon hosts will no longer spawn in missions on sedition and uprising difficulty. Okay, so they've taken out demon hosts from tier 1 and tier 2s. Demon hosts can still spawn on any difficulty when playing with lights out circumstance since we spawn extra demon hosts. Okay, so if there's the lights out modifier, they can still spawn on any difficulty, but if there's no lights out modifier, they are not spawning on sedition and uprising. All right. They lowered Rager's base health from 1,200 to 1,000. All right. Ragers should now be more easily heard. That's a great change. They were really quiet. They just start beating the crap out of you, and you wouldn't know until they were right in front of you. Now, removed instant toughness depletion on touching fire, slightly increased base damage, increased both flamers action speed and fire size, remove toughness regen when standing in fire, and change damage to tick higher the longer you stand in fire to compensate. So now if you touch fire, you will not instantly lose your toughness, which is a fantastic change. The dev note here was, this was done to reduce the frustrations of losing all toughness when briefly touching fire, regardless of your toughness amount or damage reductions. Curios that affect the bombers/flamers will be more viable as well. They've now set the Scab Bomber lower arm head to unarmored armor type. The Scab Trapper set cooldown when shootnet is aborted, decreased range stagger threshold a lot, increased min spawn time, spawn range when using dynamic spawns. Mission objective spawns are controlled by the event, increased cooldown by 2 seconds. Increased brightness of snipers' laser sight beams so that is more easily visible in outdoor missions. That's a great change. Fix an issue where Crusher and Scab Trapper were spamming their voice lines. Reduce the amount the conflict director ramps up difficulty on low and mid difficulties. Dev note here is this is related to a similar patch note from part 1 where we increase the rate at which the conflict director ramps up difficulties. All right. Missions. Added speedrun prevention blockers and the mission relay station TRS 150. Improved the bot and enemy navigation around destructible props in some missions. Fixed an issue where the fence gate at the end of the vent Complex 154 second floor didn't close properly. Fixed a bug that allowed players to fall out of the map instead of dying in Smelter Complex HL 1736. Added more chests and pickup locations in Ascension Riser 31, Chasm Station HL 1611, Chasm Logistratum, Smelter Complex HL 1736, and Enclavum Baros. Minor visual fixes and improvements to several missions. That's nice. All right, and then we are on to the final parts. HUD and UI updated sorting options through various UI menus. Also, the selected option now gets saved, so when a player revisits the same screen, the last selected option is the one in effect. Addressed issue with end of mission progress bar where the player level experience might not be the one showing in the UI. Added an error message when the player selects a preset profile with issues that needs to be addressed in the loadout. Improvements on visibility of profile presets button. Fixed a case where resetting interface settings could set different default values from the initial values. Fixed an issue where upgraded versions of a base ability wouldn't update the HUD icon for the ability, and fixed an issue with veteran keystone talent focus target buff icon not showing refresh duration correctly. Fix an issue where on-screen effects and UI would appear in cinematics, added duration indication for limb splitter on the buff icon in the HUD, and then some miscellaneous changes. Fix some clipping around ears on the veteran Steel Legion flak helmet, parade polish. Fixed Ogren bring the hurt pendants not progressing while using the bombs away talent, and added custom VFX when sawing into Captain Barrier Shield. Very cool. All right. That has been the update, guys. So that is the patch notes. I'm going to leave this link down in the description below so you guys can take a look at this if you want to look at the specific numbers changes that they've done. But we've got to test out a lot of the stuff. We've got new chainsword, both heavy and the assault chain swords. We've got a new stub revolver, new las pistol, so we got some stuff to try out. We got the stims now in the missions, which is very cool. If you're a veteran player, you've got a new shovel, you've got an updated talent tree at the bottom, so you're gonna have a good time there. And Ogrins, you got a new shovel as well. And then we got a new map, so we've got a lot of nice new changes in this mission, and I know, or in this update, and I know we've got some other stuff to come. Because they had some redacted content in the teasers, so there could be more stuff to come. So I'm excited to see what we've got there. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, my fellow agents, and I will see y'all when we return to the grim dark future, 41st millennium, in the next video. Bye, guys.